I have the mounts, the screw mounts on the bottom tabs of the heatsink. Like I say, it's like a nut and bolt setup. They go in from the bottom, and then the nut slides in, and then the things slide on the top. Just because I happen to be a little bit leery of small metal parts running around inside a live computer, I've taken a small amount of Loctite and put them on those nuts just to secure them so they're not going to come loose ever, because I use red Loctite, and just as a suspenders and belt kind of thing. So the next phase is to apply the heatsink compound to the top of the CPU, and let's screw this puppy into place. Got my tube of Arctic Silver heatsink compound. Does a very good job. Now, heatsink compound, how much do you use? There's a computer question for you, and the amount seems to vary depending on who the hell you're talking to. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Set that down for a second. I've seen a lot, and I've seen a little, and I've seen problems where they get next to none. My rule of thumb is usually on a CPU this size, which is the Intel i7 or socket 775, I usually put a little puddle about that big in the center of the CPU, and then if it's properly tightened, that spreads out to the entire contact area of the heatsink. Just squeezes it out like mortar between bricks. The purpose behind the heatsink compound, of course, is if there's any ripples in the surface of the processor body, or any microscopic ripples in the heatsink, it fills in the little cracks and crevices and undulations to conduct heat from the CPU top right to the heatsink, so you get a good solid heat contact. I've got a nice fingerprint on the top of that. I'm going to have to clean it off before I put it in. Okay, we have our heatsink bolted down. Once you get the screws started, it's a bit of a trick, but then you tighten in the cross pattern, so you do this one, this one, this one, this one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Give them a couple turns each till they ground out. Ones I've done in the past have had screws with springs under them, and I wondered about that because this kit doesn't have them. It seems to rely on the spring load on these arms. There's a little bit of a rubber contact pad that prevents them from grounding out, but the spring load on these arms and the arms on the bottom of the CPU cooler. Light in here. So there's a bit of a spring tension on them when it's tightened down. It's, I guess, holds the CPU block. It's a pretty heavy block too. I mean, it is all aluminum fins. They're pretty light, but it's copper heat pipe going through it, and a fair size block on the bottom of it. Makes it fairly heavy as far as that goes. If this case were shipping, like a pre-built computer that was shipping, I'm sure they would ship it with the CPU with the water block or the cooling block as a separate thing, just because of the weight factor. You don't want it breaking loose from the board in transit. So I got that all together. Now it's time to put the 120mm fan on the front, and we want the fan here so it blows through the heatsink. And this fan at the back is set up as an exhaust, so it'll basically draw the heat right through and out of the case, as well as drawing the heat off the motherboard and video card and all that other stuff. There's also a big 240mm vent fan in the top that draws air out as well. So this case stays nice and chilly inside, and hopefully the CPU will too now. Okay, so I got her back together finally. The fan was a little bit of a problem to attach, but not too bad. By far the hardest thing of this whole thing was to get those power plugs plugged into the back. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of room, but you're working in on an edge with your arm
the fan out of the way. Work again on an edge, and you can only grab it with 2 fingers, and I've got 2 of them that I fed through the back panel there, and then back in, so to minimize the amount of wires that are inside the box. And it was a bit of a bear to put those plugs back in, but I've got it together now. Wipe my fingerprints off the tops of the shiny aluminum fins. She's all plugged in, and let's give it a go. Okay, let's give it a go. Let's go into the BIOS and see exactly what we have for temperatures. Okay, so she's doing 102, 103. I'll leave it in the BIOS for a bit and just see what it gets to. Again, look at the speed on the speed controller. Let's change the fan profile to turbo mode because it can go a little faster than 690 RPM. I'll reboot and I'll be back. Okay, we've set the fans to turbo mode, so that means the CPU fan is now at 1338, which is adequate, so not bad at all. The back chassis fan is actually plugged into the power fan, so it's not going to be adjusted dynamically the way the CPU one is, but it's running 1600 RPM, so that's plenty adequate. The whole machine is very, very quiet. I've got all the fan sliders on maximum, and overall she's pretty darn quiet. And the temperatures are way better than they were. Even with the stock Intel cooler, temperatures were running about 140 in that range Fahrenheit. So way cooler at an idle. I'm going to leave it there for a bit and see what happens, and then we'll try it with Prime 95 in Windows and see how that works.